They don't want to serve the least among us, the people who need support, the people who are find these programs essential to their well-being. I mean, it's really shocking how many people these cuts will affect. This cut will affect the education for homeless children. It'll affect the statewide family engagement centers, rural education, and state assessments. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Last week, the Trump administration confirmed that it is blocking $7 billion in congressionally approved funding for education. The 6 grant programs being held up serve millions of students nationwide. New York alone received more than $460 million from these grants last year, including 5% of total K-12 funding for our state. Without this money, many schools will be forced to cancel critical services. These are things like after-school care options for low-income kids, school-based mental health services, and programs for English language learners, the very things that help our students thrive. The funding freeze is also disrupting school and district planning, and it could result in layoffs of some of the hardworking educators that are so important to our kids' well-being. I've heard from New Yorkers in every corner of the state of how this administration's repeated efforts to undermine education could be catastrophic for them and their families. Just this week, a mom from Sleepy Hollow shared with me how the withheld funding is creating uncertainty for her family as we approach back to school season. A teacher in Queens wrote to me that these cuts would be a devastating setback for her students. I want to highlight 3 specific programs whose funding has been halted by the Trump administration. First, the Supporting Effective Instruction state grants. These grants support professional development and other programs to improve the effectiveness of teachers and school leaders. Second, the grants for the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, which support high quality before and after school programming in schools located in low-income areas. This out-of-date classroom programming helps accelerate academic recovery and support students' social, emotional, and mental health, which has been especially crucial in this wake of this COVID-19 pandemic. And third, student support of academic enrichment grants, which provide flexible funding for school districts. This funding supports all kinds of critical activities: STEM education, accelerating learning courses, college and career counseling, school-based mental health services, and improving school technology, among others. All of these programs and functions are in jeopardy if the Trump administration does not release the funding that it's blocking. Not only are the Trump administration actions absurd, they're also illegal. These funds were approved by Congress in the fiscal year 2024 appropriations budget, which passed with bipartisan support. And they were also extended in 2025 and signed into law by President Trump himself. This administration is stealing from our children, our teachers, our families, and Americans deserve better. This week, I led the New York congressional delegation in demanding answers from the administration and about their decision to withhold this funding. I will keep holding their feet to the fire for as long as it takes. We must send a clear message to the Trump administration that we will not let them get away with this. We must share each other's stories and make our voices heard. We must show the Trump administration that we'll do everything we can to stop this chaos. I'm happy to take your questions.
Good morning, Senator. This is Rachel Knapp with WENY News DC Bureau. I have an on-topic and an off-topic, but I'll wait for the off-topic. For the on-topic, I wanted to know, is this withholding, is it part of the rescissions package, or is that something that could be added to the rescissions package?
Is it part of the rescissions package? It's just a straight up cut for no reason.
But that's just kind of like you just said, Congress already approved this. So I guess what's next is in making sure the administration releases these funds.
So today I'm calling on the Department of Education to disperse all of the money that we allocated last year. The fact that Trump feels he can cut this, it's illegal. I'm sure our Attorney General will file a lawsuit. The Attorney General lawsuits have been quite effective over the last several months. On behalf of New York, we will have to sue to get that money back. The rescissions package will be a second go at cutting funding for education. So it's just an assault on our kids. It's going to really affect their ability to get the resources they need for after school programming, for all types of curriculum investments. As you heard from various educators and moms, they're very worried about how this will affect the education and the curriculum in their own schools.
Thank you, and I'll wait until off topic for the next.
Okay. Anybody else on topic?
Hi, for on topic, I'm Medina Torre from Politico. I wanted to get a sense of like what's sort of your plan B, like in the event that the $7 billion in funding ends up being eliminated permanently. Are you exploring legal options? And if you could talk a little bit more about the impact on New York and what New York is planning here to kind of compensate for this loss of funds.
So I'm going to be urging our Attorney General to file lawsuits. That is our best course of action. Through lawsuits, you can get stays, you can get injunctions, you can demand that the money be released by the Department of Education and under an enforceable order. So that's plan A. If we lose in those lawsuits, then we will try through advocacy to make sure voters and people across New York and across the country understand what these cuts will do so that people can advocate against them to try to create a backlash of advocacy against the president to make these decisions. And then if that doesn't work, then we will make sure every cut that has harmed a student or harmed a school district, that we document it and talk about it so that people can make different decisions next year during the election. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Sarah, Basil John with Nexstar. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So I want to get your thoughts on the narrative that we constantly have been hearing from Republicans. We even saw it from the head of the Education Committee over in the House, Congressman Wahlberg, where he was saying that possibly the reason that the Trump administration is doing this is possibly to deal with missing funds or fraudulent use. And this seems to be the common talking point that we've seen from Republicans. What's your reaction to hearing them constantly use fraud and abuse as their main reasoning for withholding things like these funds?
Well, it's baseless. And like, you just need to look at what the funds were for. So this particular action claws back $52 million that were appropriated for over 100 high school equivalency programs and college assistant programs. These are the types of things that help students from agricultural backgrounds earn their high school credentials and enroll in a high school education. Like, none of this has to do with fraud, corruption, or mismanagement. They're just targeted money to help people across our state, across the country. So it's just targeting kids.
And then can you also put in perspective how this ends up impacting in the long run a lot of the schools across the country?
Well, it's going to affect their ability to set a curriculum to offer all the educational services that a school normally will. For example, one of the things that this is going to cut is for adult learners. This withholds funds from the adult basic and literacy education state grants, and that helps 1 in 5 U.S. adults who lack basic literacy skills from getting a level of literacy to be able to get a job, to be able to provide for their families. Like, it's going to affect the economy overall. Education is the gateway to the middle class. So when you're cutting all these different types of programs, the people whose education is being cut will therefore not achieve their full earning potential and will be unable to earn a living or earn the same living that they would have otherwise, resulting in a drag on the economy.
And I mean, the last question I have for you is that it seems that this now seems to be in trend with what was in the big beautiful bill, which seems to have made it even more difficult for people to pursue higher education, especially with the limitation on loans that go towards it. Why do you think that the Trump administration seems to be so honed in on what seems to be limitations on education?
They just want to give tax breaks to billionaires, and they need to find money. And they just know that lower income, less educated, rural students don't have the political clout to push back, and they want to serve their billionaire buddies, and they don't want to serve the least among us, the people who need support, the people who are find these programs essential to their well-being. I mean, it's really shocking how many people these cuts will affect. One of the other pieces of information we have, this cut will affect the education for homeless children. It'll affect the statewide family engagement centers, rural education, and state assessments. So those things help everybody across our state, and they're going to be cut.
Thank you, Senator.
Brian O'Neill, WLEA.
Yep.
I hope this doesn't come across as being out of left field or something, but does the withholding part of the money from the administration have anything to do with the transgenders and girls sports issue that the Trump administration has said they'd make cuts about?
No.
Okay.
Medina, do you have a question?
I mean, are you doing off topic now? Are we still
Go
on
ahead,
topic?
we'll do the off topics. Yep.
Yeah, so thank you. For off topic, I wanted to ask if whether you will endorse Zohran Mamdani for mayor, and how you feel about sort of the progressive backlash to your global jihad response in the Brian Lehrer interview. Can you talk a little bit about those things?
I would just say I haven't met Mr. Mamdani yet, and I will. And so after I meet him, I will make a decision. I misstated and used a word that he hadn't used, but I've expressed my concerns and different thoughts with him directly.
Okay.
Senator with Rachel with WENY News. I have a question regarding SNAP. What do the new requirements mean for New York SNAP beneficiaries, and have you heard when those changes will take effect? Thank you.
So we don't know yet when those, Medina, you might want to mute because you have a lot of
Oh
background.
yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
No
Yeah.
worries. We don't know when those cuts are going to take effect, but when they do, they will be devastating. SNAP is used by our seniors, our veterans, our children, pregnant women, a lot of people who are in deep need of nutrition. Those benefits benefit directly, keeping them safe, keeping them alive, keeping them healthy. And so those cuts will result in a lot of people going hungry.
Thank you.
Senator Anna Goober from WPTZ. Today marks 1 year since our region, especially in northern New York, experienced catastrophic flooding, and a lot of people are still waiting on FEMA buyouts to completely rebuild their lives. They are unable to do it without the federal assistance, and obviously this comes with a new administration than we had during the last year's floods. What is your message to people who don't have the resources they need to rebuild their lives, watching as the Trump administration cuts the program that they're relying on?
It's terrible. And, the North Country experienced some really catastrophic flooding. So did different parts of central New York and western New York. So we are, the cuts to FEMA and the cuts to FEMA staff and the cuts to FEMA's budget is really horrific because, as you know, when a natural disaster happens, being able to have people on the ground right away, doing their assessments, sending you whatever they can to help you rebuild, it's necessary. And we pay our tax dollars to Washington because we expect FEMA to work for us when it's needed. And so it's a real betrayal.
Senator, it's Luke Radel with WKTV out of Utica. How are you? I was wondering, there's a naturalization ceremony happening today in Syracuse, and one of your interns in the Syracuse office is one of the new citizens. I was curious for your reaction to that.
I'm very excited for Cuckoo. It's a big day for her. She is very excited about the process and the ceremony, and we're very proud of her, and we're very grateful to her for all the great work she does in our office.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator Alex Crichton, the WXXI.
Okay.
What is your sense about the rescission package? We stand to lose around $2 million if it goes through. Is this going to pass?
Probably. There's been very little pushback by the Republican Party on Trump's agenda. And during the last bill that we voted on, which was the larger reconciliation budget bill, tax bill, we only got 3 Republicans to vote no. We needed 4. So I don't see 4 emerging to vote no on the rescission package either. They've just had no spine, no willingness to stand up to him.
That's very disappointing to hear.
Yeah, it really is. And so my job will to be to make sure how New York is impacted, making sure constituents understand these are decisions by President Trump. And I will reach out to all the organizations and rural places to see what's happening so I can lift up those stories. I will reach out to senators, Republican senators from rural areas. I'll reach out to Republican senators who might have some alignment and try to convince them to vote no. But I'm just not optimistic. President Trump has been very effective in bullying the Senate and bullying Republicans specifically in his party.
Brian,
Senator,
WLE
sorry.
with an off topic.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, have you heard about, how many cuts there will be to county government employees, layoffs because of the One Big Beautiful Bill?
We don't know yet, but we're dreading it as much as anybody is because these are the kinds of cuts that cannot be made up on the state level. There's just no way a state budget can be that nimble to be able to make up billions of dollars not coming into our state that are frankly our federal tax dollars that went to Washington. We did not vote to give those tax breaks to billionaires. We're particularly worried about rural hospitals. They're going to receive a huge bear a lot of this brunt. They will not have the resources that they would expect to have, and it'll mean less care for New Yorkers.
Do you know what departments would be cut?
It'll be up to each place to decide where they can handle it.
Thank you.
But for most of our rural hospitals, like we already have shortages in nurses and in doctors. So it just means less care. It'll be less care, less specialists, less service.
Hi, this is Amy Fireisel from North Country Public Radio.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, I have an on topic and an off. The on is about the education funding, and I wanted to ask from a larger perspective of this administration withholding already appropriated funding. Like, can you speak to how this will affect the way Congress thinks about bipartisan appropriations moving forward?
So I spent the morning in our bipartisan appropriation markup bill, and we started debating this already. There was an example of the FBI office being moved. And Chris Van Hollen made the point that we, on a bipartisan basis, appropriated the money to do and to fund this in Maryland over many years. And what President Trump's doing all by himself is undermining that process. So the entire committee is very much on notice that President Trump may be ending the era of actually bipartisan appropriations processes where we actually decide where should our tax dollars go to help the most people who are most in need at the most urgent issues. And it is shifting the balance of power. It's affecting constitutional rights of 3 branches of government. Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. So it really is upending how we help people. And so it's going to be a big fight.
Thank you. And the off topic is actually about New York's early intervention system, which has been in a lot of turmoil over the last 18 months and has really reached a crisis point in terms of waiting lists and not enough therapists. Can you comment on that at all?
Just that we need more resources for therapists and for care. And it's one of the most important investments we make.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. If you have anything else, talk to Isha.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.